Hello and welcome back to the JavaScript Beginners tutorial series. Today we're going to be making decisions, or our program will be making decisions. So having a look at something called if statements. And if you've used if statements before in another programming language like Python, it's pretty similar in JavaScript. Okay, the syntax is pretty much the same. So for this first example, we're going to make an if statement which will check if the user is old enough to play a game. So say we have a video game that is rated 15 years plus, then we can check if the user is is 15 years or older, and if they can play the game, and we'll display a message for that. Otherwise, we'll display a message saying that they're not old enough. Okay, so first thing, instead of taking user input and asking for the age, in this example we'll just set the age as a variable. So first thing is we'll make an age variable, so var age equals, and to test it we'll just put in a test value. So I'll set it 20 to begin with, and we'll go back and change that. Okay, now we can put in an if statement, and this if statement can check if they are 15 years or older. Okay, so we can go if, and then in brackets is where we specify the condition. So if age, and now we want to check if they're 15 years or older. Now there's a number of operators you can use in JavaScript, and to check if, for example, to check if the user was exactly 15 years of age, we could put age and then double equals 15. Okay, and we can put that in brackets as our condition, and that would check if the user was exactly 15 years of age. And currently that age variable is set as 20, so that would evaluate to false. Okay, they're 20, not 15. Okay, so that's to check if they're equal to, using double equals. To check if they are not equal to 15, so anything but 15, it's exclamation mark and an equal sign, so that means not equal to. If we want to check if their age is greater than 15, then we use that. Okay, so that's a greater than sign. Or if we want to check if they're less than 15 years old, we can use the less than sign. Okay, and we could also check if they're less than 15 years of age, or they're 15 years of age, so less than or equal to 15 years of age, which is that. Or we can check if they are greater than or equal to 15 years of age, and that's the one that we want to use. So we want to check if they're 15 years or older, so we can use greater than or equal to. Okay, and that condition is specified here inside these brackets. Then we need to write what will actually happen if they are 15 years or older. So if this condition or this test evaluates to true. Okay, and that's where we put in our curly brackets, and just enter down a couple of lines, and then here if we tab across inside these curly brackets, so inside these two curly brackets we tab across, and we can put our code here on these lines. Okay, alright, and that's the code that will run if their age is greater than or equal to 15. So we can write document.write you are old enough to play the game. Okay, we could write that, and basically if we run this, so I'll save it and run it in Chrome, it says you are old enough to play the game. Why? Because they're 20 years old, and we're checked to see if they're 15 years or older. If we change it to 15, it should still say you are old enough to play the game. So if we go back, refresh, it still says you are old enough to play this game. Now if we change it to 14, it shouldn't say anything. Okay, so refreshed and there's nothing there, and that is because the age is set to 14 and we want to check if it's 15 or higher. So it's false, the age isn't 15 or higher, and so it doesn't do anything because we haven't specified any other code to run. What we could do is so if they aren't 15 years or older, we could then go down and we could say else, okay, and then inside curly brackets, tab across, we could put document.write, you are not old enough to play this game. Okay, so basically here we check if they're 15 years or older. If they are, it will say you are old enough to play the game. Otherwise, if they're less than 15 years of age, then it will say you are not old enough to play this game. So if this condition isn't met, if that's not true, then it will go down to this else statement and it will run whatever code is inside there. So we'll save that, go back and refresh, and remember the age is still set to 14. So if we refresh, it says you are not old enough to play this game. Why? Because they're 14 years old. I've asked if they're 15 or higher. The answer is no. So it goes down here and says, well, if they're not 15 years or older, then we have to say you're not old enough to play this game. Tough luck. Okay, what you could do, so we have an if statement and then we have an else, but we can also add a little bit of space here. We could add else if. And basically with else if, you can add a number of different conditions and code that will run if those conditions, if it evaluates to true. So you could have an else if statement here, you could have another else if statement here, another one here, and then you can have an else statement. So basically, if this isn't, if this condition isn't met, or if that if it doesn't evaluate to true, then it will check this one. If that one's not true, it will go down, until one of them is true, and it will run that code. Otherwise, if none of these evaluate to true, then it will just run whatever code is inside the else statement. Okay, so you can set multiple conditions. And we're just going to have another condition, we won't have too many, and basically it will be else if age is exactly equal to 14. Oops, close the brackets. Then what we'll do is say document.write, you will be old enough to play this game on your next birthday. Okay, so basically what's happening is if they're 15 years or older, they're old enough to play the game, they'll be told that message. If they're 14 years old, they'll be told you're not old enough yet, but you will be by the time you reach your next birthday. Otherwise, you're just not old enough to play this game, and that message will be given. What I've actually done though is I've taken this curly bracket and I put it in the wrong spot, so that needs to go there to clean that up a bit. Okay, so make sure that your condition is inside the normal brackets here, and the action or the code that will run if this condition is true needs to be inside the curly brackets or curly braces. Okay, so make sure that all of that syntax is correct. Now let's run this code again. We'll change it to 13 and see if it runs this. So it says you are not old enough to play the game. So we'll do that first. Save, refresh. Okay, so it still says you are not old enough to play this game. So that's what we want. Then if we change it back to 14, it should say you'll be old enough to play this game on your next birthday. So refresh. There we go. Alright, so that worked. We've got a few different conditions here. So one is if they're 15 or older, one is if they're exactly 14 years of age, and then basically if none of those other conditions are met, then display this message. Okay, so that is how you can use if statements to check different conditions. So have different conditions, check if they're true, and then have code that runs based on the outcome of those conditions. Okay, and you can use those to make a number of different decisions in your program. All right, so that's if statements. Thanks for watching.